What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Leo coming to you guys with yet another video. Coming to you guys today with a reaction video. Coming at you guys today with Scream 6 moments that made our skin crawl. Scream 6, I literally went to see probably about 2 months ago. No, was it? No, about a month ago. About a month ago, I went to go see Scream 6, and I think the movie was very interesting. And like I did my review on it. If you guys haven't checked that out, go check out my review. So you can see what I had to say about it and everything like that. Um, this might contain spoilers, so if you have not seen Scream 6 yet, please click off the video and go watch it, then come back to this video, because I don't want to spoil anything for you. So, yeah, I wanted to, make that little disclaimer, because I don't want to spoil anything that's going to happen in this movie. But we're going to get into it now.
Brutal falls, shocking twists, and the moment that broke all the rules of the franchise. These Scream 6 scenes will stick with viewers for a long time to come. Ever since the cold shock of the opening moments of the original Scream, fans have known that it's never too early for characters played by big-name actors to be killed off in one of these films. After all, in an homage to Janet Leigh's
They've done it in many films where a big name pretty much died in the opening. We've seen it with Casey Becker, Drew Barrymore. We've seen it with Jada Pinkett Smith. We've seen it with Cotton Weary. I think those are just three that come to mind, but we've definitely seen that over the course of those films. And it's not even just in the Scream franchise, but other franchises as well.
Premature departure in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, the original Craven-directed phenomenon opened with the gruesome death of Casey Becker, played by the film's most recognizable star at the time, Drew Barrymore. In typical slasher style, most films in the franchise have since opened with a murder. But it's actually been a while since a Scream movie began with the death of one of its advertised stars. Jada Pinkett's Maureen was murdered in the teaser to Scream 2 back in 1997. And Liev Schreiber's Cotton Weary was knocked off in the opening of 2000's Scream 3. Subverting expectations, Scream 4 began with a series of meta misleads before finally giving the audience its first two kills. And Jenna
I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about how they handled the opening. I kind of have mixed emotions to this very day, but comment down below for everybody who has seen Scream 4, or just in general for everybody who's just seen any of the films. How do you feel about the openings? But for specifically Scream 4, how do you feel of them doing it like that pretty much before actually getting to the actual kills?
Ortega's character actually survived the first Ghostface attack in 2022 Scream.
Yeah.
There's certain rules to surviving a stab movie. Believe me, I know.
Scream 6, for its part, appears to play this expectation straight when it introduces Samara Weaving's
The reason why I deleted it and just say anything right now, because I still get flashbacks of just seeing everything that happened with Dewey over the past few films and then leading up to his demise. I still get goosebumps this very day.
Professor Laura Crane, only for her to be murdered before the opening titles. Crane's stabbing in a Manhattan alleyway is violent and upsetting, but this alone wouldn't necessarily shock a seasoned Scream fan. This time around, however, the killer's identity is revealed immediately, and it's quite surprising. College student Jason Carvey, portrayed by Tom Holland's Spider-Man co-star Tony Revolori.
Sup, squad?
This twist is only setting up the next one, as Jason is dispatched shortly thereafter by the film's true villain. And just like that, two of the faces on the poster have been dispensed with, and the film isn't even 10 minutes in. Much like the original Scream's opening twist, such moves put the audience off balance from the very beginning. It's so keeping with the spirit of Hitchcock, who was so famously devoted to his psycho secret that he wouldn't let people enter the theater after the movie began. Scream 6 establishes Chad, the hunky sweetheart, as a romantic foil to terror.
See, and I said this in my review. When you look at the new, I think they're kind of going in the way where they're getting rid of like the legacy characters, because they're kind of wanting to start a new franchise with the core four being, how Sidney, Gale, and Dewey were, but they're making it into the core four. So I do love that concept. It is still gonna still be I don't know how to put it, because we grew up loving and idolizing a lot of these legacy characters. And I've even said it before with Dewey, it's one of those situations where he was just that guy that, a lot of people can see themselves in, myself included. And, I think he was always the heart and soul of that group. But I do think they kind of paid homage to him in some way, because I think with Chad, I think the way they did his character, he has that Dewey type of mystique about him to and everything like that. And I think not only that, but they kind of made him the new Dewey in the film. When you look at as many times as Dewey has been stabbed and he comes back, they kind of did that again, but he got stabbed brutally and numerous times over these two films that he's been in. And I think it's easily to say that he's the new Dewey of Scream now. But I think it's one of those things you can't really say, is because like he's the new Dewey, but it's like it won't feel the same because Dewey is just always gonna be Dewey.
This feels like a twist in itself, as the two characters don't get to spend much time together in the first film where they're fighting for their lives. Even so, actors Mason Gooding and Jenna Ortega share enough chemistry that it's easy to get on board this particular ship. After all, it's been ages since Scream introduced a new romantic relationship between lead characters. Gale Weathers and Dewey Riley were on and off for 5 films. It's about time 2 of these Woodsbury teens got together. After their first attempt at a kiss is interrupted early in the film, the pair once again becomes too busy fending off Ghostface's attacks to make another. But that is until the 3rd act, when they finally capitalize.
Only difference is I would say what makes him a little bit more than Dewey is not, and I understand what he just said, like the whole relationship thing, but you gotta think, when you look at Dewey and Chad, yes, Chad I feel like is the new Dewey, but I think he adds a little bit more, because think about it, Chad, he literally went up to Ghostface and literally clocked Ghostface many times. He literally was going war to go with Ghostface, literally having upper hand on him. I don't think we've ever seen that situation happen with Dewey, where he's pretty much had the upper hand on a Ghostface. I've never seen that in any of the films. Every time we've seen Dewey in the film, he's pretty much always been on the receiving end of stabs from Ghostface. He's never really had that upper hand. And it looked like they were going to do that for the first time in Scream 5, but that didn't happen. They continued with him not getting the upper hand. Comment down below, I might be tripping, I might be missing something. But not only that, but I don't think, and I think a lot of horror people talk about this, the phone calls that, Ghostface has with the characters. We already know he's had Ghostface calls with Sydney, and we have one with Gale. But I'm not sure. I don't think this is, and I think I might be right on this. Hopefully, if I am not, let me know. But I don't think we've ever had a Ghostface call between Ghostface and Dewey. And I think that's something I would love to see play out. But comment down below because I might be wrong with that.
Lies on a quiet moment while waiting for Ghostface to step into a trap they set up at the killer's secret lair. Chad and Tara share a tender kiss. After the kiss, Chad gets shanked in the side several more times, buying Tara time to escape. This appears to be the end for Chad, and it's pretty shocking, though not as gory as the
when those two Ghostfaces came up to him and literally just having a shank fest, I'm thinking it's over with. I did not see him living through that. He must have been on some real. He must have had something, because I don't know how he could have survived getting brutally stabbed by 2 people like that.
Lots of the film's other kills. The reason for this restraint is probably because it is not, in fact, a kill. For the 2nd consecutive movie, Chad appears to be stabbed to death, but is eventually carted out of the crime scene on a gurney, miraculously clinging to life, which takes some of the bite out of the scene. Scream 6 gives its viewers plenty of notice that legacy characters are on the chopping block. Resident horror nerd Mindy makes a point of telling the crew that, in the franchise film they're living through, the old guard is basically just here to get killed. The killer gives Gale the same warning over the phone when he calls her for the very first time in the franchise, which itself feels like an omen that a story has come to its conclusion.
There's never been one like me, Gale.
Still, nothing quite prepares a viewer for the violent shock of seeing a beloved character murdered. Ghostface invades Gale's Manhattan apartment and quickly disposes of her boyfriend, Brooks. After putting up an impressive fight, nearly outsmarting the killer, Gale is pinned down on the floor and stabbed in the gut. Sam Carpenter arrives to chase off Ghostface before he can do any more damage, but the event has an undeniable air of finality to it. This moment would likely rank higher on the list if audiences didn't learn at the end of the film that Gale has survived the encounter.
Here's the thing. I just don't think they could have done that. I just think it would have been It wouldn't. I don't know how to. For me personally, I just don't think they should have had Gale die, especially with Dewey getting killed in the fifth one. So to do it again, I just feel like you kind of would have to wait. I think if you want to kill Gale, I think you would have to wait probably for like another film or two to then try to do it, because I don't think you should do it so close to the fifth one. You killed Dewey, but I think a lot of things happen. I think what the thing is, when you look at the three legacy characters, when it came down to it, I think a lot of people already predicted Dewey was gonna die in the fifth one. I kind of seen it happen, but I just wasn't sure until I seen it. And when I seen it, I was emotional. I will say that. And I think when you look at I knew they were gonna kill Sidney, but I think it really narrowed it down to Dewey and Gale. And I think for the most part, people wanted Dewey to be the one to continue living and then kill Gale off, because I think that would have added more story arc to Dewey for having him more to do going into the upcoming franchises.
Has cheated death before, even walking off a bullet in Scream 2. But her encounter with Ghostface in Scream 6 feels visceral and final when it happens.
Yeah.
Turning out to be yet another false alarm, the scene will probably lose much of its intensity and effectiveness on repeat viewings. Sam Carpenter, the new series heroine introduced in the fifth Scream film, has a darkness inside her. The secret daughter of original Ghostface Billy Loomis, Sam is haunted by visions of her murderous father and has apparently inherited his predisposition towards violence.
What's the matter, Sidney? You look like you've seen a ghost.
She keeps a handle on herself through medication and mental discipline, but she's got a vicious streak that comes out when she's under pressure. Viewers first saw her cut loose at the end of 2022 Scream, when she repeatedly stabbed her
Yeah, she literally let loose. She let Richie have it.
murderous boyfriend Richie in the brutal fashion typically employed by Ghostface. In Scream 6, Sam struggles to cope with the sense of satisfaction she felt while butchering Richie, while being accused of being the real 2022 Ghostface by conspiracy theorists on the internet. The online rumors turn out to be part of a scheme engineered by Richie's father, Detective Wayne Bailey, whose end goal is to frame Sam as the new Ghostface. Bailey trapped Sam in a secret Ghostface museum that Richie curated before his death, whose artifacts include the masks worn by every previous Ghostface. Throughout the film's climax, Bailey urges Sam to put on the mask of Billy Loomis and fulfill her destiny by dying in it. Surprisingly, Sam eventually does choose to put on her father's mask, for only as long as it takes to kill Bailey Ghostface style, stabbing him multiple times in the face and abdomen. It's a bizarre and effective twist, and quite unnerving. The Scream series has always offered transparency in wearing its rules on its sleeve. There is always a Randy or Mindy type to tell viewers what can and can't happen and to define the danger the characters find themselves in. Typically, whoever's behind the Ghostface mask is trying to reproduce the experience of being the villain in a slasher flick, which makes them dangerous, but also predictable to some extent.
You mean like in Halloween?
No, not like in Halloween.
Oh. Sounds a lot like Halloween.
Throughout the run of the franchise, Scream has had an unspoken rule. When you're wearing the Ghostface mask, you're only allowed to wield a knife. The only times a Ghostface killer has pulled a gun were after their identity has been revealed, never before. Something about the visual would feel unnatural, like Jason Voorhees holding a shotgun or Captain America grabbing a chainsaw. In Scream 6, however, the new Ghostface does indeed break the mold. During Sam and Tara's first confrontation with him on the
And it's something I'd never really noticed, but because like all the Ghostfaces we've seen, they mainly use a knife to get their kills. But after they're revealed, they, like he said, they pretty much use a gun after that. But now, I think with Scream 6, they kind of flipped the script a little bit and added more into the Ghostface killer's arsenal. And not only just being able to use a knife at your disposal, but having a gun at your disposal, it makes it more kind of realistic in a way.
the streets of Manhattan, the carpenter seeks shelter in a bodega, where the shopkeeper attempts to defend his store with a shotgun. Whereas previous killers might have stabbed the gunman and thrown the firearm away, this Ghostface has no problem with stealing the weapon and proceeding to shoot up the place. Footage of a gun-toting Ghostface scandalized Scream fans on social media from the moment it first appeared in the trailers, and it's no less weird seeing it in the context of the film. The sense of danger around the familiar movie monster is immediately increased, at least for the duration of this sequence. Luckily for the protagonist, Ghostface more or less follows the usual rules for the rest of the film. As viewers catch up with Mindy Meeks Martin in the beginning of Scream 6, she's a college freshman, lounging at a frat party with her new girlfriend Annika. Annika is immediately cool and likable. Based on previous Scream movies, this means one of two things: she's secretly the killer, or she's not long for this world. Sadly, Annika receives perhaps the most brutal death of Scream 6, when Ghostface invades Sam and Tara's apartment while the rest of the gang is visiting. After Ghostface appears to murder their roommate Quinn, the survivors are forced to flee the apartment by crawling out of a bedroom window and crossing to a neighbor's place via a narrow ladder over a gap several stories high. Annika is the last to cross the gap, already badly wounded by Ghostface's knife. By the time she gets halfway across, Ghostface has broken.
That was I would consider that a little bit of gore because it looked like he stabbed her like by the belly button and then tried to slice her down. Like, I think it was going into like a situation where she was about to get gutted almost, but literally somebody came in and invaded to keep that from happening. But she's still kind of almost bled out at that point, and then pretty much getting to the ladder.
Into the bedroom and taken hold of the ladder, shaking it violently until Annika loses her grip, plummeting to the concrete below.
Yeah,
the film then offers a close-up on her gnarly, bashed-in head. Most of the Scream 6 victims and targets are slasher film veterans, able to keep themselves together throughout the violence. But this is Annika's first encounter with a masked killer, so her terrified and desperate reaction is much closer to your average innocent horror movie victim. It's par for the course in a horror movie, but the fact that she's the only character who gets a prolonged screaming death in Scream 6 makes it hit home. In a slasher film, it's a necessity that some moments need to be viscerally upsetting to viewers, and that others need to be triumphant and cathartic for the killer's surviving victims. However, one of the leads of the rebooted Scream franchise is Sam Carpenter, who wrestles with some truly psychotic impulses, and her capacity for cruelty is a bit beyond the average audience's comfort level. During the final confrontation with the three new Ghostfaces, who turn out to be the late Richie Kirsch's surviving family, Sam shoots her treacherous roommate Quinn in the head, right in front of her father, Detective Wayne Bailey. Sam kills Quinn in self-defense, but the figurative twist of the knife comes when Sam has the gall to smirk about it while standing face-to-face with Bailey. While Bailey is a serial killer, there's something shocking about the film's hero relishing in the pain of a guy who's just watched his last two offspring die violent deaths. Sidney Prescott and Gale Weathers could be pretty cutthroat. They even set a teenager on fire in Scream 5, but Sam is on another level. Without question, the greatest cinematic triumph of Scream 6 is in the tooth-grindingly tense subway sequence, in which Sam, Tara, Chad, and Danny brave a long subway ride crowded with costumed strangers celebrating Halloween, some of whom are even dressed as Ghostface. In a protracted, mostly wordless sequence, the heroes attempt to keep an eye on anyone who might turn out to be a threat. An impossible task as passengers are being shuffled about at each stop. The killer could be anyone. Finally, Mindy finds herself cornered at the end of a subway car and gets stabbed in the abdomen by one of the Ghostface killers, while the dozens of strangers around her remain oblivious. Slasher movies often play on the fear of being caught alone and unaware, but the subway sequence in Scream 6 speaks to an even more terrible nightmare. Like the murder of Maureen in the packed movie theater in Scream 2, Mindy's subway stabbing forces the viewers to acknowledge that one can face mortal danger even with countless people around to witness it. Of course, like so many of the other disturbing sequences in Scream 6, this one would feel weightier if Mindy didn't recover from her injuries by the end of the film. While many viewers will be thrilled that Mindy was not a casualty of the bloodiest Scream to date, it sure is weird that so little of the film's violence proves fatal.
I mean, I could see what they're saying is you pretty much had some brutal moments in there, but then they kind of, survived it. I think the most brutal one is probably, I would say, the moment what we had seen with Chad, him getting stabbed numerous times by two Ghostfaces, and then, still being able to survive that. And then the same thing somewhat of the same thing happened in Scream 5 where he got stabbed numerous times, and then he still survived. And then, I think then you had Mindy, who pretty much had a somewhat of a brutal moment, but it was more of like, because of the subway, it kind of held weight, because you can have some flashbacks to Scream 2 where Maureen was in the movie theater and people were still around her, but she still got killed in the movie theater with people around. So I think that kind of would have held some weight if she was to die off the movie. I love her character. I just feel like when you look at the main characters that we've seen, she really didn't have as much as we thought she would. So maybe with Scream 6, I mean not Scream 6, but Scream 7, if we do get a Scream 7, she can have more to do in the film, just like how Chad did in this one. Because I think Chad, Sam, and Tara, all three of those kind of really knock it out of the park. I think if you're looking at if you was looking at the new legacy characters, I would say, I think it would be like this. We had, we did have Gail, Sydney, and Dewey. And I think if you want to have that kind of play into this, but you want to make it a new 3, you can have Sam, Tara, and Chad. Mindy, I think she's going to be more like that, Randy character, but I think she might make it to another movie and then probably get killed off. But I do think the new 3 should be Sam, Tara, and Chad. If that's how I will look at it. But we never know how things can happen in the world of Scream. But if I was to look at it, when we looked at Sam, Tara, and Chad, I kind of see a little bit of an equivalent we can see with Gail, Sydney, and Dewey. So comment down below. How do you feel about that? Do you think that should be a new trio if they was to do like a new legacy characters, but if it's like the main 3? Or do you think Mindy will be a part of it and it might be the actual core 4 going forward instead of just the legacy characters? But the core 4, I do like the name. It does stick, it does hold some weight. But that is the end of the video. You guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel. If you are new, hit the post notification bell so every time I post a new video. We're on the road to 500. We're at 462. If you're new, you love wrestling, you love horror, if you love my little discussions, my reactions to different things, horror or wrestling, please comment down below. Please hit that like button. It helps out in the algorithm and to get more people to see what I'm doing on this channel. But that is the end of the video. You guys like I said, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you for kicking with me. I appreciate all the love that you guys have been showing, and I'll see you guys in the next video.